Hey all, today we'll be doing a Pilates sequence with these light hand weights or dumbbells. Here I'm using 1 kg weights, but you choose what weight you want to do. Just remember, a little weight here goes a long way. And then we'll get set up here with our hands under our shoulders, our knees under our hips. Just gently relax those feet down and we'll go for some cat and cows. We're going to inhale as we open that chest up. And then exhale, curving under. Imagine you're being punched through the stomach. Inhaling as we open up, push that chest through. Really open that upper back. And then exhale, try and tuck that pelvis underneath you. The rest of the back will follow. So we inhale, push that chest through. Exhale, pull that belly button in, curving that spine round. And then after this, we'll move those hands over to the right hand side. Place that left hand on top. And we'll go for some cat and cows in this direction, just to the diagonal. So feeling this stretch down the left hand side of the body. As you again go for that same movement through those inhales when you open up, and those exhales when you curve around. Nice, a different sensation here. And then we'll switch over, bring ourselves over towards the left. That right hand on top, so you're feeling this stretch now down the right hand side of your body. Nice, just moving through your own time. And then walking yourself back through the center, hands come under those shoulders again. And this time moving freely through that cat and cow. So adding some rotations with the head, maybe rotating your hips side to side as well. Just moving in a way that feels good, opens up the body. And then we'll push ourselves back into this child's pose position. And then keeping that body curved, we'll ripple through the spine, open up at the top into that cow. Pushing back to sit on those heels, and then rippling through. So combining that cat and cow with this forward and backward motion, this should feel really nice for that spine. And then settling back into that all fours position again, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. We're going to keep that body weight central as we lift that right arm, left knee up off the mat to hover just a few inches. Lower down and switch to the other side, left hand, right knee. Nice, so just alternating through these sides. Try not to let the body sway too much through this movement. We're just trying to play around with that weight and think of the tailbone pulling backwards behind you, crown of the head pulling forwards, abdominals pulling up. The next time you're on that right side, that right arm is going to reach forward, left leg reaching back, and then squeeze them in together. Nice, so reaching away, and then pressing that hand into the thigh for a bit more abdominal engagement. Again, through this, we're still trying to stay stable through that body, not swaying side to side. And now option here, if you want, we can reach for one of those hand weights, grab hold of it in that right hand, and then keep this same movement going, just involving that weight. Always an option to remove it, but if not, adding that extra resistance. Nice, think of really reaching away with that leg, straightening behind the back of that knee, pointing through the toe. And then here, last one, we're going to hold it out there. Lower that foot down towards the mat. And then we just lower and lift through that right arm. So reaching it down towards the mat and then up towards that right ear. An option, hover that left leg up off the mat and then keep that right arm moving. Nice, so reaching that leg away. Adding that extra resistance here as well, that extra lever to play with. Nice, we'll go for last one here. And then holding up at the top, we're going to just lift and lower that leg now. So this time it's that arm that's staying still, that leg that's moving. Nice, thinking of length through the whole body, the foot reaching away from that hand. Try not to let your hand drop like I am a little. And then reaching that arm down, just take a moment here before we then reach back up and reset ourselves. Opposite hand, opposite leg again, this time flexing through the foot. And then we're dragging that heel in towards your bum and extending away. So I want you to imagine you have a heavy weight on the end of your foot. We're going to drag that in towards our bum against some resistance. And then inhale, drag it away. Same resistance as you dragged in. Last one, we'll hold it up there, kick up through the sky, pulsing up, 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 up. Nice, and lowering yourself back down, removing that weight, just placing it in front so it's still within reach. And then we're going to tuck those toes underneath. Exhale as we hover those knees up off the mat. Inhale, lower them down. Exhaling as we lift. Inhaling to lower. Same thing as before. Imagine that tailbone pulling back, crown of the head pulling forwards. Slight pull up with that belly button. Nice, and keeping those knees lifted this time. We'll just hold that hovered box position, going for some deep breaths in. We'll inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. Nice, lowering yourself back down, releasing those knees. Take a moment to just stretch off those wrists if you need, if they've got tired. Rotating side to side, maybe interlacing the fingers as you do this, because we're going to go back into that position in a moment. We'll reach forwards, shoulders again over wrists, hips over knees, and then this time switching over to the other side. So reaching that left arm forwards, right leg backwards, and then reaching that left hand to that right knee. Think of finding length through the body as you reach away, and then finding that pressure of that hand into the knee as you draw it in. Option, either continue with this or reach for that light hand weight in the left hand this time. Same movement here, reaching away and then bringing that weight towards that right knee as you draw it in. So adding that bit of extra resistance here. Again, aiming to keep that body weight central. Check, are you still pulling up slightly with that belly button, so we're not arching that lower back. We're keeping that core engaged, like we're wrapping around the core of the rib cage. And then last one, we're going to hold it out there and then lower that foot down, and we'll keep that left arm moving, drawing it down towards the mat and then up towards that left ear. Thinking of the same thing here with that belly button pulling up, so careful we're not arching that lower back. And then option to add on a little more again, we're going to lift that leg up off the mat, adding that extra resistance, extra lever, keeping that arm moving. And there's always the option to remove that weight. If it's not helping you in any way, we can just leave it on the floor. You'll still get this work without the weight, but we're finishing our last one here. We'll lower down and just again take that moment to reset yourself before we reach back up into that position. This time keeping that arm still. We're going to lower the leg down towards the mat and back up, tapping those toes and reaching away. Nice, arm staying still, keeping in line with the ears if you can. Again, mine is dropping a bit. And then we'll switch to drag that leg in again against some resistance. Imagining that heavy weight on the end of the foot again. Nice, trying to keep that thigh still if you can. Last one, we're going to hold it there, pulse up to the sky, pulsing up, 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 up. Last two and one. Drawing yourself back in. Again, releasing that dumbbell, releasing yourself back down. To bring those hands back underneath the shoulders, knees under those hips, and we'll go for those hover lifts again. As we exhale, we'll reach those knees up off the mat, and as we inhale, we'll tap them down lightly. So moving up and down through this like we did before, going for a few more reps here. Last two here before we hold it at the top. And last one, reaching those knees off, holding it at the top. Deep inhale here, through the nose. Deep exhale out through the mouth. And again, a big inhale through the nose, expanding that ribcage sideways. And exhale through the mouth. Releasing all of that air out of the lungs. And then lowering the knees back down on the mat. Nice work, just shake off those wrists, rolling them in opposite directions. Releasing any tension there. And then we'll come forwards again into our hands and knees. This time reaching those hands a little bit further forward than before. So our hips are slightly in front of those knees in this modified plank position. We're going to tuck those toes underneath. And as we exhale, we're going to reach those knees up off the mat into that full plank. To then inhale, lower those knees down. And each time we reach up into that plank position, I want you to find that long length through the body, that long line from the head to the toes. So we're not sinking our hips too low, we're pushing away from the floor with those hands, pulling the shoulder blades apart, and almost kind of dragging those palms back towards the feet at the same time, so we engage through the lats. and thinking of kicking those heels towards the back of the room behind you so we can straighten those legs. And then we're going to hold that plank position at the top, just holding for a few counts here. And then we'll go for those knee taps, alternating with those knees, tapping them down, trying to keep the hips still, the upper body still, just moving from the hips downwards. Last 2 and 1, pushing back into that plank, bending through those knees, downward dog. Take a moment pushing that chest through, feeling that stretch, elongating through that spine. And then lowering ourselves down, bringing those knees back towards the mat. And then we'll go into a glute section next. So when you're ready, we're going to flip over onto our side, coming onto that right hand side first. Ignore me just fixing my clothes, getting myself ready here. And then we'll grab hold of that dumbbell, place it in front just so it's within reach for the next exercise. And then we'll settle ourselves down on top of that forearm, bringing that top hand to that top hip. Think of lifting out of that underneath side of the waist. And then we'll just go for some simple clamshells. So opening that top knee out, keeping those hips stable and stacked on top of each other, and then lowering it back down. Thinking of engaging that top glute each time before we lift. And then an option if you want is we can hover those feet up off the mat and then keep that top knee moving, opening to that clamshell and then closing back down. The whole time thinking of that underneath waist, trying to lift it up off the mat or having that intention of doing so and pulling that belly button in slightly to engage that core. Nice, and we'll do 2 more like this, opening up, and last one, opening, this time holding it at the top. We're going to keep that thigh locked in place as we extend from the knee downwards, drawing it in. So we're keeping that hip externally rotated and just extending and drawing back in. You should be feeling this burn in the top of that glute, the side of that glute. Nice, reaching those toes away, getting that full extension to draw back in towards the other foot. Just finishing off your last one, drawing in and then lowering both knees down. We're going to extend that top leg up again, reaching it hip height, flexing through the foot as we drag that leg forwards, pointing through the toes as we draw it backwards. So keeping that torso still, just hinging from the hip down. We can keep that top hand on the mat for support or bring it up towards your hip to create a little bit more instability. Nice, so we're trying to keep that same height of that top leg the whole time, trying not to let it drop down too close to the floor. And then after your last one, we can do small circles forwards with that top leg. Keep pulling in with that belly button, keep pulling up with that waist, and then switching the direction, small circles backwards. For the last 4, 3, 2, and 1. Reaching that leg back down, grabbing hold of that dumbbell, and then squeezing it behind the back of that knee. So we're holding it in place and then bringing those knees to a 90-degree angle. We're going to lift and lower that top leg, feeling that burn as you squeeze that dumbbell in place, lifting and lowering all the way down to the knee. We're going to then hold it at the top, small circles backwards with that knee. Same thing applies, still keeping that core engaged. Last one, and then we switch the direction, small circles forwards, opposite direction. Squeezing into that dumbbell still so we don't lose it. Nice, lowering that knee, removing that dumbbell, feeling that burn, and then bringing ourselves back up onto that forearm. This time going for those clamshells again, but if you want, we can lift the hips as well at the same time as opening the knee. So we exhale as we open the knee, lift the hips, inhale, close the knee, lower the hips. Option also to keep those hips on the mat if you want and just open into that clamshell again. If not, we've got the last couple here. And last one. And then lowering those knees down, we're going to extend out into this side plank position. We're going to reach that top arm up towards the sky and then just go for this isometric hold. A lot of isometric holds today to work on that strength. And then we'll lower those hips, exhale as we reach them to the sky. Still in this side plank position, going for these hip dips. Last 3. Reaching up, last 2. And one more. Reaching up, holding for a moment. And then reaching for that dumbbell. If you want, we can go for that side plank with that added resistance. And again, go for those hip dips. Last 3. And 2. And last 1. Reaching up, holding it at the top for a moment, fighting that urge, and then lowering the dumbbell down, releasing, and then we'll swivel the legs round to the other side to go again on the other side. So we'll come down to that left forearm this time, placing that head down on top of that arm, those feet in line with those hips, and we'll go for those simple clamshells to start with, opening those knees up to close back down. And we're going to focus on keeping those hips stacked, so we're not rolling backwards onto those hips. Like on the other side, option to lift those feet up off the mat, keep that top knee opening and closing. Thinking of engaging in that top glute before we lift, and then lower. And on this next one, we're going to hold it open to that highest point and then extend from the knee downwards. We exhale as we extend. Inhale, tap the toes back together, keeping that external rotation through the hip, turning out. We'll go for your last 3 and 2 and last 1. Drawing that knee back down, closing it down, and then extending that top leg again, flexing the foot forwards, pointing the toes, inhaling back, creating stability through the upper body as we move from the hip downwards, finding that long line in that leg, reaching away from the head. We'll go for 2 more like this, drawing forwards and back. Last 1, reaching it back, and then small circles forwards with that top leg, extending the leg far from that head, and then switching the direction, small circles backwards for 4, 3, 2 and 1, lowering that leg back down, and then reaching for that dumbbell, putting it behind the back of that top knee, and then reaching up and down with that top knee, reaching up and down, and then we'll hold it at the top, small circles forwards with that top knee, squeezing into that dumbbell to hold it in place, and then switching to circle backwards, small circles back for 4, 3, 2 and 1. We'll lower that leg down, remove that dumbbell, placing it to the side, tapping off that glute if you need to release that tension, and then coming up to that forearm. We're going to go back into those clamshells. This time as we open that knee, we're going to lift those hips as well. So adding a bit more feeling through that underneath glute as well as that top glute working, pushing off that forearm, and then lowering ourselves down. We're going to bring that top hand towards those hips and then go for this side plank position. Option to lift that arm towards the sky. Keep reaching up, head in the opposite direction towards those toes, and then some hip dips. We lower and lift, lower and lift. We'll go for 3 more, reaching all the way up, using the sides of the waist. And last 1. And reaching for that dumbbell. If you want, we can go for that isometric hold as well. Option holding the weight, option without, reaching and then going for those hip dips again, lowering them towards the mat and reaching up. Nice, reaching all the way for your last 1. And then lowering the weight down, lowering those hips down. We'll stretch off through the side of the body, reaching up and over towards the toes, feeling the stretch down the side of the body, side of the waist, and then reaching up and over towards the other side, sending the breath down through the side of the rib cage. Just moving side to side once more, breathing into it. Nice, letting yourself sink into this, feeling that nice stretch and enjoying this feeling. Before you then pull yourself out of that, coming back into that position with our feet in line with our hips, our knees at 45 degrees angle. I'm going to go for these side lifts. As we lift those hips, reach the arm to that T position, and then up and over, back to the T to lower back down. Option doing this on the hand instead of the forearm. Finding that nice diagonal line before lifting and reaching higher to then lower yourself back down. Option to go for that full version, lifting those knees up and off the floor. So we're working through the whole shoulder here, that full range as we reach up and over, really working on that shoulder stability. And also working through those obliques, through the core. And those different options are there for you to play with. So coming to the forearm if you feel any sort of pain in your wrists. And then swiveling ourselves around to the other side. We're going to reach up and over and come into that stretch for the other side. So again, reaching towards those toes and then away from the toes. Really enjoying this moment and that stretch through the sides of the body. Think of sending the breath to the sides. And then coming into those side lifts again. So again, starting on that forearm, feet in line with those hips, reaching to that T, up and over, back to the T and lowering. Or also the option coming to that arm, coming onto that hand, same thing here. Nice, moving through that side plane of motion. And then option lifting those knees as well. So as we reach up and over, thinking of that banana shape through the body. Each time those hips trying to fight to lift higher towards the sky. And then controlling that landing down. Nice, articulating through that shoulder, all the way up and all the way down. We'll go for one more. Reaching, looking down towards the hand as you reach over, back through the center and lowering those hips. And we'll come to sit lengthways on our mat again, feet in front. Just bringing those dumbbells down by your side so that you can have them within reach. Finding yourself in a comfortable seated position with our feet flat on the mat, sitting tall on those sit bones and reaching those arms forwards in front parallel to the mat. We'll go for some C curves as we tuck under the pelvis, roll back halfway and then roll ourselves back up to a straight tall spine. Think of really tucking under the pelvis to get that smooth roll back, finding that C curve through the spine as you roll away, keeping those arms parallel to the mat and reaching back up. And then maybe you can go a little further, placing that lower back down on the mat as you roll back and away from those thighs, finding that length through the spine at the top. Option to involve those small hand weights, rolling back, adding a bit more resistance this time. Reaching up. Nice, exhaling as you roll back down if you want to use that breath. And inhaling to find that length, sitting tall. Nice, tucking under with the pelvis. That eye gaze is always flowing forwards, maybe looking towards the tops of the knees, naturally following the rest of your body. And then last one, finding that length and then lowering the dumbbells back down towards the mat. This next time, rolling halfway back, holding the torso still as you lift that right arm towards the ear and then the left one. So alternating those arms, we're keeping that torso still, that rib cage down, and just moving those arms, isolating that movement from the rest of the body. Nice, let the breath go naturally through this, or if you want, exhaling on the way up, inhaling to lower. Finding length through that spine as you roll back up, tucking under the pelvis to roll back and away, this time using both of those arms, lifting both arms towards those ears, exhale, drawing them back down. Inhaling to lift, exhale, draw them down. Nice, fighting the urge to move that torso. And then reaching up, finding that length, grabbing hold of those dumbbells. We're going again, we're rolling all the way back halfway. Now we're going to alternate those arms, small little lifts. We switch, switch, switch. So as one goes up, the other goes down. Nice, small little movement. And reaching, finding length through that spine again, lowering those dumbbells towards the mat, reaching those arms away again, rolling down. Nice, this time a little further with that lower back. Reaching and rolling away from those legs, reaching all the way so just those shoulder blades are lifted, and then lifting back up as we inhale. Exhale, tucking under with that pelvis. Find that lower back connection. Find the mid back connection. Keep that upper back lifted. Inhale, rolling back up. Nice. And going again, tucking under with that pelvis. C-curve through the spine, rolling down and away. This time, lower that chest down. Lower those arms, bringing them up and overhead. We're going to go for our roll-up. So we inhale as we lift those arms, look towards those toes. Exhale, lift and reach even higher. Inhaling at the top, option to extend those legs. We exhale as we roll down away from those thighs, tucking under with the pelvis, arms lift overhead. Inhale, lift and reach, look towards those toes, press that belly button down. Exhale, lift, reach up and over, reaching. Inhaling at the top to exhale, tuck under with the pelvis, roll down and away, reaching those fingers towards the toes and then up and overhead. Nice, we go again. We inhale, lift and reach. Press that belly button down. Exhale, up and over. Reaching. Inhaling at the top. And then exhaling, tucking under with that pelvis again. Rolling down away from those thighs. Keeping those heels anchored. Lowering the chest, reaching the arms up and overhead. Inhale, lifting up. Press that lower back down. Exhale, reach up and over. Reaching forwards, pointing through those toes, and then sitting tall through that spine, finding that length, bringing those legs out to the width of your mat. We're going to work with our spine now, having a soft bend through those knees if you need, but if you can sit tall, we're going to keep those legs straight. We exhale, nod the chin towards the chest, reach up and over. Inhaling at the bottom here, to then exhale, roll back up through the spine, sitting tall. Imagine sitting tall against a wall. Exhale, nod the chin towards the chest, peeling away from that wall as we reach forwards with those hands. And then rolling back up as we exhale again through the mouth. Shoulders down away from those ears as we exhale, nod the chin towards the chest, rolling forwards, up and over. Imagine someone pulling your hands, the crown of the head forwards, but your abs are resisting and pulling you back. Nice, working through this. So we exhale on each movement and inhale at each end range. So all the way forward and all the way at the top. And we can start to add a bit of resistance. Last one, sitting tall, grabbing hold of that dumbbell, tucking under with that pelvis. As you roll back, reaching that dumbbell away from you. And then as you bring that pelvis back underneath you, bringing that dumbbell towards the chest, pulling that chest through. So working through this hip mobility. Shifting that pelvis forwards and backwards, trying to get that anterior and posterior tilt. So tucking under as you roll away, tipping that pelvis forwards as you hinge forwards with those hips. Bringing the dumbbell now just into that right hand. We're going to reach and rotate our chest over towards that left foot, reaching that dumbbell towards the outside of that left knee. That left arm is reaching behind you, floating that thumb towards the mat. So reaching in opposite directions, finding that length, finding that reach away, that little pull through the body, and then switching the dumbbell over towards that left hand will go on the other side. Right arm reaching behind you, thumb facing that floor, reaching to the outside of that right foot. So think of reaching that forehead forwards, the crown of the head forwards, and that chest forwards. Finding that length rather than thinking of sinking that head down towards the mat. Think of reaching away. Coming back through the center. We're going to keep those dumbbells in our hands and lie back down on the mat with our back flat down, drawing our feet in so that we can lift one leg up to tabletop, followed by the other, and then reaching those arms up towards the sky. So we're going to have those shins parallel to the mat, the knees directly above those hips, and reach those dumbbells up. We're going to start by alternating those arms. So drawing one arm down towards the hip, followed by the other. So we're focusing on keeping that belly button pressing down, keeping those shins nice and parallel, and controlling that movement through the arms. So the steady lower down with the arm, and then that resistance on the way back up. And we're going to focus on keeping that rib cage down, not flaring those ribs as we keep moving those arms, especially as we lift those arms back up towards the sky. And after your last one, we can keep those arms where they are and start to move those legs. So reaching one foot down towards the floor and then back up. reaching away with those toes to draw back in. We want to think of trying to keep 90 degrees angle behind that knee. So we might need to reach those toes further forward than we think to keep that angle there. Keeping that belly button down still, especially as you reach those toes away. We've got that longer lever to play with. So keeping that belly button pressing down and the core engaged. Nice and slow and controlled. And then we can go for a straight leg version. So extending that leg away from us and then drawing back in. Pointing through the toes as you drift that leg away. Think of extending behind the back of that knee to draw in. Now it's your choice how high or low you want to go with this leg. Obviously the lower you go, the harder it will be. And then we can involve both the arms and the legs if you're ready. So opposite arm draws down as opposite leg reaches out. Nice, getting that counterbalance through the body so we're keeping our ribcage stable, keeping those hip bones stable. Reaching as we extend and press. Drawing in and away. Ignore me just flexing through my feet here. I think I'm starting to get cramp. But trying to keep pointed toes throughout. And then we can switch to the arms, keeping those legs still this time. We're going to open out into this T position. And then slowly draw those arms back in. So feeling the resistance of the dumbbells on the way out and on the way in. So even if they feel like light dumbbells, we want to add the extra resistance through our mind to muscle connection. So we're not dumping those arms down all the way down towards the floor. We're just drifting to hover off the mat and then drawing them back in. Feeling that work through the chest, through the arms, through the core. Legs still in this tabletop position. And we'll go for one more, reaching those arms away, finding that space between those arms, drawing them back in, and then lowering one of those weights down, grabbing hold of the other weight in both hands, grabbing hold of the dumbbell heads, and this time we'll go for some chest lifts. So we'll inhale, and then exhale as we lift the chest, reach those arms between those legs as we open those knees out to the side. Inhale, lower that chest back down. So each time we lift up, we're going to open those knees out into this V position, and then draw those knees back together, lower the chest, reach that dumbbell back up towards the sky. So we're fighting to lift those shoulder blades high up off the mat each time. Maybe lifting a little higher each time, looking between those knees, reaching forwards, reaching towards those toes, reaching towards the other side of the room. That belly button sinking down each time. And thinking of drawing those ribs down. Last one, we hold it up there. We're going to do small pulses up through the center, reaching, pulsing up, 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 and lowering yourself back down, lowering those feet down one at a time, placing that dumbbell to the side, and we're going to reach those arms out to this T position, bringing those legs back up into this tabletop. We're going to keep those knees squeezing, not letting them come apart or drift and glide along each other. Imagine them as one single unit as you drift the legs over towards the right, drifting that left hip up off the mat. Exhale, come back through the center. Inhaling, drifting the legs over towards the left, the right hip rolls off. Exhaling back through the center. So just moving side to side. As the legs go over to one side, think of that opposite shoulder, resisting that movement, staying on the mat, that opposite rib cage resisting. Like you're wringing out a towel through that spine, feeling that spine stretch as you squeeze those knees, reaching the legs over. Keeping the opposite shoulder grounded. Squeeze those knees together, keeping those shins parallel if you can. And then we'll bring those hands on top of those knees and use that to help lift our chest higher, lifting those shoulders off the floor, bringing both hands on top of that left knee as you extend that right leg forwards. And switch, and switch. Using the pressure of the hands into the knee to help lift that chest higher, getting that full extension through that opposite leg, extending behind the back of that knee, going for this single leg stretch, reaching away and pressing down. Exhale on each press, inhale to switch. We exhale, inhale to switch, and exhale to press. Drawing both knees in, both hands on top of both knees again, lifting that chest a little higher, going for this double leg stretch. Reaching the arms and legs in opposite directions. Exhale, draw it back in. Inhale to shoot away. Exhale, drag back in. Shoulders lifted, still looking between those thighs. Reaching. Drawing back in. Nice. Keeping that chest lifted. And then hands come behind those knees. Use that to help rock yourself back up to a seated position. And we'll go into our rolling like a ball. So make sure you have space behind you because we're going to roll back. We're going to roll back slightly so we're just off our sit bones. We can come to find that balance with our feet off the floor. We're going to press our hands into those shins, one hand on top of each ankle, and kick those shins out into the hands at the same time. As we inhale to roll back to those shoulder blades, exhale, roll back up. Find that balance at the top. Going for this rolling like a ball. Tucking under with that pelvis to get that roll back as smooth as possible. Exhaling back up. Holding it at the top before we then roll back. Trying not to use any momentum, getting all that movement to come through the core and trying to keep that position locked in place. So pressing down into those shins as well as kicking out into those hands. Now we can extend those legs if you want to progress, going for this open leg rocker. Same kind of movement, just with straight legs, holding onto those ankles, inhaling to roll back to those shoulder blades, exhale, rolling back up. And then we'll go for one final one, pulling that belly button in as you inhale, roll back to the shoulders, exhale, use that breath, use that core, coming back up through the center, grabbing hold of those ankles, just open out those knees, letting your head relax down towards those toes, opening up the hips. Just take a couple deep breaths here. And then we'll open up through the chest as we reach that right arm towards the sky and draw it back in. And again, same side, opening up, getting that full chest expansion. Inhaling as you open up. And then exhale, lower yourself down. And then going for the same thing on the other side, reaching that left arm up towards the sky. And then exhaling down. Inhaling to open that chest, exhaling to lower. And last one, exhaling, lowering back down, and then coming to lie on the mat on our backs, drawing those feet in close towards our hips again, reaching behind those thighs so that we can lift those shoulders up off the mat and then reach those fingers towards those toes. We're going to flip those palms up and down. Option to grab hold of those dumbbells, same movement. Flipping the palms towards the sky and then towards the mat. Finding that full rotation. Option lifting those knees up to tabletop, keeping those arms going. Twisting and rotating that whole arm, not just the wrist. Think of that elbow, the elbow pit pointing towards the sky and then towards the mat. Full rotation from that shoulder joint. Finishing off your last one. And then drawing those arms to shoulder height, out to this T position, and then drawing back down towards your sides. Reaching away, and then drawing down. Again, keeping that belly button pressing down, keeping that chest lifted, looking between those knees. Off two more. And last one, reaching away, drawing back down, then going for those arm alternate movements again, fluttering up and down, reaching forwards and up and down, reaching forward, still lifting the shoulder blades, and then lower those dumbbells down, lower those feet down one at a time, reaching those arms up and overhead to lift that chest. Feet come back into this tabletop position. We're going to go for that 100, pulsing those arms down. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep those shoulders lifted. Keep pumping those arms down, pumping from the shoulders, not just the wrists. Keep that breath going. We exhale for 5 and inhale for 5. Pressing that belly button down, squeezing those knees, reaching forwards. Keep breathing. Nice last push, pulsing down and lowering the chest, hugging those knees in towards the chest. Maybe looking side to side with that head to stretch off the neck in each direction. We're going to go for another set when you're ready, so just take a moment here. And then reaching those legs back into tabletop, reaching that chest up, arms forwards. Option with this one, extending those legs forwards, keep pulsing those arms down. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Keep pulsing, keep reaching. Legs are reaching forwards, belly button pressing down, looking between those inner thighs. Keeping yourself lifted, keeping the breath going. Nice. Roll with it. Reaching and lifting, pulsing, and lowering yourself back down. Again, hugging those knees in towards your chest, looking side to side. Well done, guys, for making it through that little ab workout, that little ab burner at the end. And then lowering those feet down, we'll switch over and work the opposite side of our body. So we'll start with our arms long by our sides, squeezing those palms in towards those thighs, tucking that pelvis underneath you slightly so you pull that belly button up and away from the floor. We're going to inhale as we lift the head, neck and chest up off the mat. Exhale, lower the nose to hover just off the mat. So as we inhale and lift up, I want you to squeeze those palms in towards the sides of your thighs. And then exhale, lower. So squeezing into your thighs will also help engage those lats underneath the armpits. We're going to keep the tops of the feet pressing on the mat as we lift. And then lower. We can then bring those arms up and overhead. Again, keeping those hips tucked slightly, squaring off those hip bones. We're going to lift both arms and the legs, reaching them up high and in opposite directions. Reaching up as we inhale, exhaling to lower. Inhale, lift and reach, 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 reach. Exhale, lower down towards the mat. And again, we inhale, lift and reach. Holding this now at the top, we're going to go for that swimming. We're going to lift one arm, one leg higher, switch, opposite arm, opposite leg. And swim, 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 swim. Keeping those hips stable. Think of reaching higher, not lower. Reaching up, 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 up. And everything lowers all the way back down. Bringing those hands underneath the shoulders. Pushing back into a child's pose position. Stretching off the lower back in the opposite direction. Resting that forehead down on the mat. And then we'll go for some cat and cows. Rippling that body through. At the top, opening that chest. Pushing those hips back down into this child's pose. And again, curving that spine, rippling through, opening through the chest, sinking that belly, sending the hips back. And again, just opening up through the spine, getting that nice spinal release, forwards and backwards. And just let this moment be as free as you want. This should feel like a really nice spinal release. Really articulating through the vertebrae as you ripple forwards and backwards. Getting a stretch through the belly, through the back, through the shoulders. And then coming into an all fours position with those hands over towards the right. We can go for some cat and cows in this direction. So opening the chest up towards the sky and then curving over, pulling that belly button in towards the spine. Inhale as you open that chest up, sinking the belly. Exhale, ripple through, sending the lower back up towards the sky. Walking the hands over towards the left hand side this time, sending the breath down the right hand side of the body. Feeling that stretch as you go for these cat and cows in this direction. Opening up through the side of the body. Letting the breath stabilize and just be natural through this. Coming back through the center. And then just adding whatever movement you wish here. So maybe adding some rotations through the head. Maybe shifting those hips side to side. Maybe circling through the middle of the body. Just do whatever feels good. Getting some movement. Stretching off through the upper body. And just getting that final stretch down, sending those hips back and rolling up through the spine to a seated position. And we're done. Thank you all for joining me. Well done, and I hope to see you next time.